Hey everyone. In this episode, we're sharing a special rebroadcast of a live event that we recently did with Jay Baer as he joined us for our Revenue Rockstars series. As you probably know, Jay is a marketer, author, and a customer experience expert, and he covers topics like increasing the number of touches that you need to complete a B2B sale, the importance of getting your messaging right, how to plan for scaling, how to convert awareness into action, and much more. So let's get into it.
Hey everybody, I can absolutely agree to what Chip said about the SharpSpring platform. I'm a SharpSpring customer myself and have been for quite some time. It really does pretty much all the things that you want a revenue growth platform to do all in one package. The interoperability makes it a lot easier to get things done, saves me a ton of time, and allows me to generate a lot of revenue. I am not a rock star. In fact, I am manifestly non-musical. But as Chip did note, I am a former DJ, and so I've been around rock stars enough. Also used to book concerts, so I've seen rock stars in their habitat, and so I know a little bit about what an actual rock star looks like. But I know probably more about what a revenue rock star looks like. There's a few criteria that Chip and I think sort of describe who or what is a revenue rock star. What's the first criteria for a revenue rock star?
It's this one here, Jay. They focus on revenue, not just vanity metrics. And anxious to get your take on this, but to me, this was one of the cruxes of what we meant with Revenue Rockstars. It's a more modern way to approach marketing where you are working with your sales team. You're not just focused on things like impressions or clicks or followers. You are focused as a marketer closely with your sales partners on things like real revenue. Is that right?
Yeah, no question. And one of the challenges I think that modern marketers have is that there's too many other metrics, right? It's not that marketing is not measurable, it's probably too measurable. So there's lots of other metrics that kind of get in the way of, well, did you actually make money? And revenue rock stars are laser focused, especially on the B2B side, laser focused on revenue generation and really working hand in glove with their partners on the sales side.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're measured marketers too, right? I mean, so they know how to sing the scale, so to speak.
Yes, nice metaphor for revenue rock stars. The second one is revenue rock stars know what works and what doesn't. Random acts of marketing is the worst way to do marketing. But it's a way that I see a lot of people falling into because there are so many choices. We are surrounded by marketing choices, and more are created every day of how to spend our time and spend our money. And a lot of times we're just sort of firing bullets off in the air, hoping that a bird flies by simultaneously. And then if you're lucky and a bird does fly by, you're like, wow, what a great hunter I am. But you maybe it worked and maybe you did generate revenue, but you're not really sure why. And maybe you just got lucky. So the revenue rock stars really understand what works and what doesn't, and not just categorically in marketing, but what works for their particular business and why.
Yeah, so this means you're setting up campaign tracking, right? When anytime you launch a campaign, you're scouring through your tracking and analytics, really understanding all of your marketing and how it's performing from the top of the
Yeah,
funnel to the bottom.
and your lead scoring, which is one of my favorite features of SharpSpring, actually.
Yeah, no question. So, yeah, you and I have talked about this new research that just came out. Jay Forrester published some research that actually showed the number of folks in an organization involved in a B2B sale, as well
Yeah.
as the number of touches, have both increased
Yep.
in the last year, right? And so, Revenue Rockstars kind of think about revenue as really a multi-point, multi-touch customer journey.
Well, I think it's when you don't have to schedule meetings face to face and everything is digital virtual because of the pandemic, right? It's Zoom or similar or email or Slack. It's a lot easier to loop more people into the decision making process. So it actually seems a little counterintuitive, but when you dig a little deeper, it makes sense that the decision making process in B2B has elongated and includes more people. And so you're exactly right, Chip. Revenue Rockstars understand that revenue generation isn't at the point of conversion. Revenue generation is part of all the different touch points that precede that last touch conversion. Really, really important, and something that here we are in almost 2022. I think marketing still has a ways to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think, marketing automation initially was built around this concept, and I think
Yep.
this has become only more true over time for marketers to think about.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah,
Jay,
this
I
is the
mean,
thing.
you
This is
test
my
in your
favorite one.
business,
This is the
yeah.
one. This is the one right here. This is the one. I have been saying this since I started in this business in 1993 in digital marketing. People have asked me, I don't know, 10,000 times, Jay, what should we do for our business to create revenue? And Chip, I've always had the exact same answer 10,000 times in a row. I don't know, but I know how to find out. And that's what everybody's answer should be, because you don't know. You have some suspicions, hopefully, but you don't actually know what's going to work for anybody under any set of circumstances unless you do what? You test it and optimize it. And this is why, of course, a revenue generation platform like SharpSpring is so valuable, because it allows you to test and optimize all parts of the funnel, all parts of the journey across lots of different marketing executions. But the revenue rock stars that I know are the ones that are the most committed to testing and are the least in love with their own intuition.
Yeah, it's a practiced, tested approach. One of my favorite authors is Malcolm Gladwell. In his book Outliers, he talks about the 10,000 hours to become an expert. I mean, it certainly applies to music. We wouldn't be doing this concert live if we hadn't practiced our craft for years and years. Bands never played live without, unless you're maybe a punk band in 1978.
Right.
Play live.
Yeah, it's good to not be good. Yeah,
without rehearsing. You might not know your instrument then either, but testing and optimizing clearly key in music and in marketing. Talk to me about this, Jay. The scaling.
Well,
part.
I think it's a little tricky because all revenue rock stars have to ultimately operate on two frequencies, right? So you're operating on the what are we doing this day, week, maybe month frequency, which is what revenue are we generating that's right in front of us. But in order to really succeed as a revenue rock star, you also have to be on a different frequency, possibly a higher frequency, or a lower and higher chord, if you want to use the Rockstar paradigm here. And that chord is all about, well, how are we going to generate the next iteration of revenue? How are we going to go from success at this level to success at a bigger level? And you can't figure that out once you get there. You've got to figure it out in advance, right? You've got to be looking around corners and thinking about, all right, what are we going to do 2 years from now? And what blocks are we putting into place today to allow that to be the case? And actually, the Rockstar business works the exact same way, right? Everybody starts playing in a fraternity basement for beer, and then they start making $50 at a local club, and then they start playing a little bit of a bigger club, and then a little bit of a bigger club. And guess what? It's the same for public speakers like myself. It's the same for authors. All those businesses are the same. You've got a ladder, and you have to be looking at the rungs 2 or 3 above where your hands are presently in order to know where to climb.
Yeah, I mean, a big piece on this too, Jay, that I think I would add is, part of the plan and the system to scale is operational, right? And again, means not thinking of yourself as an island in marketing, right? Your job doesn't stop when the lead comes in, right? I mean, in many ways, your job has just begun, So now you have somebody that's raised their hand maybe, and they're interested. Now your real work is beginning as you partner with the sales team to get it over the finish line and scale this into all pieces of your business.
Absolutely. Ultimately, what problems are we going to solve for you, the potential and future revenue rockstar? The first one is a problem that a lot of people are faced with, which is not fully understanding what it is that you're selling. Like what exactly is the idea here? So often, I think, Chip, people come at this from a perspective of what do I have to sell or what can I monetize? instead of taking a quick step back and saying, well, what is it that people actually need? Because maybe it's not necessarily what it is that you're selling. You got to repackage and reconstitute the entire idea. For example, nobody in the history of the world has ever actually needed socks, but everybody in the history of the world has needed their feet to be warmer. Good marketers think, I need to sell socks. Great marketers think, I'll bet you people's feet are cold. And there's a big difference in approach in that construct there.
I think another thing you've said, which just stuck with me, so I'll just add in there for one of my favorite metaphors of all time, Jay, is if you need a hole in the wall, you need a drill. If you need a hole in a mammoth, you need a spear, right? I mean, it's the same. It's
Indeed.
Similar concept. Know what you're selling.
Indeed.
Yeah.
The second one to think about it, and these are all sort of before you get into the classic marketing funnel, is not really knowing your target audience. And what I sort of mean by this is too often, I think marketers are looking for the largest possible audience. The thought being, if we reach a bunch of people, some of them surely will need to buy socks. But the reality is the better way to approach marketing, and Seth Godin will probably talk about this, is to find the smallest enthusiastic audience. Not the largest possible audience, but the smallest enthusiastic audience. Most marketing fails not because it's too narrow, but rather because it is too broad. So the more you know about your target audience, the better you will be, the more of a revenue rock star you will be. And of course, a platform like SharpSpring allows you to know a lot about your audience using personas and lead scoring and all kinds of automagic stuff behind the scenes. It almost forces you to be smarter in this regard.
Yeah. Now, who's your ideal customer? Who are the people inside those organizations you're selling to?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
And here's the third one, which is, I don't know if anybody's paying attention now. I might know something like how many people like my Instagram post or how many people visit my website, but I don't really know whether those people are potential buyers or they're just rookie-loos or they're totally unqualified in any way. Understanding not just existing attention, but whether that attention is qualified and whether it has any hope of buying something from you is definitely a revenue rock star. Then we get into the next batch of funnels. The fourth one. Is the fourth one up there? This is, we talked a second ago, Chip, about not knowing whether targeted and qualified audiences are paying attention today. I don't know how often I get asked this question. How much money should we be spending on Facebook ads, or how much should we be spending on Google ads, or whatever the circumstances may be? And that's a relevant question to ask, but you've got to actually have a plan for how to answer it. Because what most people do is they're like, well, it probably works. We'll just spend more money. And that's not always the best approach. So making sure you've got a plan for knowing when it makes financial sense to spend money and even time to create awareness. The fifth one is something Chip mentioned in my book, Utility, in my introduction, is something that I think is incredibly important, even though I wrote that book probably 10 years ago. Still important, probably more important today than when I wrote it 10 years ago, which is ultimately, in most businesses, your mileage may vary, but in most businesses, your prospective customers are not going to be ready to buy instantaneously, right? They're going to have to consider it and talk to other people, as Chip said. And so you've got to give them some value in exchange for the rights to interact with them. Seth Godin, of course, pioneered the concept of permission marketing probably 20 years ago. And here we are still talking about it today. It's one of the things I like best about SharpSpring is the ability to very easily build an early stage relationship with a prospect by giving them something of value, like a Revenue Rockstars series, and then nurturing that relationship over time. Sixth one is, I feel like I should have a drum roll. Chip, play drum roll.
I'm not trying to add too much time to each one of these. I want to make sure that we get through them. And
Drum
I don't
roll
add
up.
too much
Sixth one
color.
not understanding how to convert awareness into action. We talked about a second ago this idea of adding value to prospects, and making sure that you understand the different ways that you can impact your conversion rate. If you've got 100 people coming to your website, okay, what you should be focused on is how to get 5 of those 100 people to fill out a form, not getting another 100 people, right? People always spend too much time on awareness and awareness creation as opposed to conversion optimization.
Yeah, if you're a full funnel revenue marketer, you think about that stuff, you obsess about it, you test landing pages, you test your lead magnets, things like that.
Yep. The seventh one is really critical. I talked about nurture a second ago. This idea of, all right, well, I collected their email address, and maybe they're not ready to buy. Okay, that's cool. They're going to be ready to buy eventually. What do I send them in between? In between them raising their hand and saying I'm interested, in between that and here's my money, like what is that relation? What do you send them? When do you send it? As you said, Chip, Ann's got a terrific email newsletter. I have a new email newsletter as well. This idea of how often do you send it? What's included in that email? Really important.
Yeah.
Eighth problem, how do you keep the experience consistent for the customer or the prospect across lifecycle and departments? So if they're an early stage customer, not a customer, versus they are a customer, versus now they're talking to customer service or customer success or sales or someone else, it's amazing how often you talk to different people or different departments in a business and it feels like a totally different company. Like, did you know that you guys work on the same business? And there's a lot of ways to make that better.
I just like to add, I mean, that is the promise of a platform like SharpSpring, of a true revenue growth platform where you have a shared CRM and a single set, a unified database, a unified CRM. So your marketing people, your sales people, your service people look at that, manna from having a single view of the customer that marketers always think about.
It's made a huge difference in my own business. Just bringing sales and marketing together with one platform has really changed a lot of things in the business. So Chip's exactly right. The ninth one is, all right, cool. Somebody who's interested and we got their email address and then we sent them some things over time and now maybe they are ready. Are they ready to give us money now? How do you know when the prospect is ready to make a purchase? And as I mentioned a bit ago, it's one of my favorite parts of SharpSpring, or really any marketing automation platform, is the lead scoring piece of it, right? So in SharpSpring, I can look in 2 seconds and look at anybody who subscribes to my email newsletter and see who's opened, how often, how recently, how many times they've been to the website, what pages of the website they've looked at, other email exchanges, webinars attended, blah, 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 blah. And then all of that creates a lead score. And so once somebody sort of trips a lead score threshold, it sends an alert to the sales team. This person is making behavioral choices indicative of somebody being ready to buy. That is gold. It makes your sales team so much more efficient and effective because they're not wasting time following up with people who haven't demonstrated that they're ready yet.
Yeah. Talk to people with a pulse.
Yes,
or
exactly.
Or intent is there. Yeah.
Intent. Yep. 10th one is not following up with prospects efficiently. Lead scoring will help because it narrows down your list, but then also not understanding, well, how does that prospect want to be communicated with? Do they want to be called? They want to be emailed? They want text? Do they want live chat? How do we keep track of all of that? So often salespeople kind of try to keep their own paperwork. Like, well, I've got a list on my desktop in Excel of the people I follow up with. I actually talked to some folks in Marnie's agency about that at one point, that we kind of keep our own counsel in terms of our follow-up list. Use team-wide tools like integrated calendaring, like integrated video calls, like tracking emails sent from individual salespeople. All of that stuff rolls together and makes your sales team follow-up much, much more efficient and effective. The last one, the 11th problem, is not knowing how to turn a one-time buyer into a repeat customer. I tell you what, there are no revenue rock stars that own a leaky bucket. It's just not possible, right? If your clients are buying and then not rebuying, you will never achieve your goals. because you never have that compounding revenue effect that kind of gets you to the next rung of the ladder. So in some ways, the most important thing you can do as a revenue rock star is to find a way to get your customers to be bigger customers, repeat customers, turn them into advocates, etc. I think we all know that to be true intellectually, but sometimes we don't do things as marketers for this to become true.
Yeah, the customer journey doesn't stop when they become a customer, right? In many ways,
No.
it's going to continue
And
on.
look, I get it, right? A lot of teams, marketers are rewarded for net new revenue, not necessarily recurring revenue. So some of that's just the way marketers are compensated or treated.
Yeah, thank you, Jay, for going through that. That was phenomenal. The as Nigel Tufnell says, this one goes to 11.
Chip.
Yeah, Jay, great job. It was phenomenal to hear the top 11 problems and your top 11 songs.
Terrific.
All right, Jay. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bill.
And
Appreciate
thanks,
it.
everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good to see y'all.